don't be afraid of failure. So I've had a fear of failure all my life, and I think it's held me back, and it's made me hold on to things longer than I should have. Go for it. Let a couple of things fail.
Welcome back to another episode of Season 5 of Relentless Life on Your Terms. I have a guest, a fellow gentleman I've known for a long time, who's ran businesses for close to 20 years. He ran a global digital company and now involved with property development. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So let's start at the start of the journey. You've been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
What was your first business and how did you become an entrepreneur?
So I started an ad agency called Extension Co. at 26 years of age. So I started my career in property actually at 24 at Mirvac. I was the youngest marketing manager, and at 26, my boss at the time slammed his fist down on the table and said, "You work for me, don't cross me." And I decided at that point, no, I don't work for you, and left and started my own business.
So he had a really positive impact on you.
He did have, you know what? His aggression was the most positive thing on me.
I said that with my previous guest, actually, funny enough today. You learn so much about people, not just good, but also things you can learn from and improve from. He did have a very positive impact
100%.
because you just thought, wow, I'm not going to be like that and I'm off.
Yeah. Well, look, it was terrible because I was 26. I was just 26. I was a boy from the country. I'd landed this big job at Mirvac. I'd been in there for 2 years and I thought I was kicking goals and everything was going well. And then this guy just crushed me. And it was only my ego that made me or not my ego, but my grit that made me go, I'm not tolerating this from you. And I left. And then I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do now?
Ego's good though. I always say healthy ego is good if it's pointing in the right direction. And I heard Mark Boris say, it's very good to have all different things and use it as a toolbox and use it when you need it. I think I have a very healthy and large ego, but I'll point it where I see where needed. I'll share a funny story with you that I find hilarious. Back in the day, you can't lead businesses like that now. And even if you could, who would want to as a leader? But
100%.
When I got my first job as an in-home consultant, funny enough, in real estate, I was 19, almost 25 years ago. And we had a similar story. So we had this guy fly in from Queensland, really sharp looking in a Versace suit, came in. I remember their names. I won't say them on camera. As my boss manager at the time,
I probably know their names too.
I'm sure you would. giving me a speech. He flew and go, listen, everyone, you're going to do 2 days worth of training, 6 hours of training. Go back out on the field. Some of you do well. Some of you won't. You come back and retrain. If you go back out and you don't do well, you're fired. And I thought to myself, I'll show you. I was 19. We lost about 60, 70% of the people we were trying to recruit at that time because they thought, wow, I'm not copying up this sort of abuse. But for me, I saw that as a challenge and I'll show you. But a lot of people, great people, and I'm using you as an example, you walk down and go, no way I'm tolerating this. But yeah, it's bizarre.
Well, this guy was actually asking me to do something that I just thought fundamentally was unethical. And I was like, no, I'm not letting that. That's not my standards. That's not my quality. I'm not doing it. And and I chose the high moral path, my ego path.
Whatever the case was, but it was a really good thing. But I find it so interesting. So back then it was a lot more prevalent to lead businesses that way. And although it might have motivated people like myself, I always used to think there's a large majority of people that let go because of the way this has been handled. It's like parenting all the kids the same way. You're not going to have the same impact. So going back, so we don't digress for too long, because we've obviously got 30 minutes and I really want to ask you a lot of questions. That happened. You started your own business. Then what?
So I started an ad agency. I grew that to 24 people. It was a big ad agency. We did over 150 property development projects. So we're focused on property. My background and my passion's always been property and design. So during that journey, we had an opportunity to build a large technology solution for a project marketer to help them sell their flats off the plan through channel agents. We built that solution. Halfway through the build, the company that was building it went broke. And I thought, maybe I should buy it. Maybe it'd be a good company. It was a silly idea. But I bought this digital agency, which had 12 people, and finished building out what is now Investorist. We built it. The commercial deal I had with the project marketer failed, but I had a really cool piece of software that I put a lot of money into.
Which went global.
And I launched it. Yeah, I launched it. Initially, I just launched it with a few developers as a software as a service. It was like the agent login portal. So that started. Then the idea of creating a global marketplace hit me, and we basically hit the tarmac with that in August 2013. I got my first investor in that because I couldn't do it on my own.
Needed a lot of capital.
So raised $13 million across that journey. So needed to feed that hungry machine.
Yep.
We launched in Australia, then went to Sydney, then went to Brisbane, then went to Perth, then went to Shanghai, then went to London, then went to Miami, then went to New York, then went to California. It was a rocket ship. It was growing.
How many years that went?
So Investorist still exists today.
No, it was from that period of time when you went.
So from 2013 to 2018, we went from me to 55 staff, 4 countries around the world. I think we had 50,000 properties on the platform. We're doing transactions on platform, over $4 billion worth of real estate transactions on that platform a year. So
what were your biggest key learnings?
I think my biggest learning out of that whole business was getting investors is a double-edged sword. Like, I think you have this idea of bringing people into your business and bringing capital into your business and supercharging it. But you've got to make sure that the people you get into that business are aligned with what you're wanting to achieve. And making sure you pick the right partners, because the wrong partner, when things go bad, as they did with COVID, you can get some fairly bad actors in there.
Fairly bad actors?
Bad actors, as in
bad advice? Too much expectation?
So investors have, when you get an investor into your business, they have a fair bit of control, a fair bit of influence.
Yep.
Especially if they get on the board and they start to be part of it.
Money, all that
yeah, and all those sort of things. And you obviously have a huge duty to your investors, which I take very seriously.
Of course.
But if the market turns, you have to pivot your business strategy, and not everyone's aligned with that. So I found through my journey of being an entrepreneur that if you're in control, you've got to be in control. If you're a participant in a business,
it's a lot harder.
Well, you just got to know where you are. You got to be one or the other.
Your T's and dot your I's. I started the business in 2005, and in 2008, I got an investor, as you know, and I always thought having an investor, although I was the CEO and ran the business, in some cases I thought, like, how do I say this? I was like an employee.
Yeah.
Because the expectation was that high in certain areas that didn't people understand the exact fundamentals of the business. And I had quite a few people pumping in quite a bit of money each month into marketing. The sales had to be X in these developments with these developers. And I couldn't sell or do what I wanted. Now, the accountability side, the result side, no issue with it all. Having to sell this in that time frame, that was where it was challenging for me. And I always used to say to myself, and even when I spoke to my brother, I feel like I'm an employee in some cases because these people are putting in so much money, X. And I used that money and invested that money, and they made great returns on that money. But I sometimes felt, a bit hamstrung in certain areas.
Yeah. I think my learnings is really, really a lot around managing investors and managing those expectations and knowing what your place is. Sometimes you've got to make tough decisions.
But I guess you don't know what you don't know. In
you don't know what you don't know.
2020.
Correct.
It's a lot easier. So you went through that, which you scaled quite well. And then you're now working in a marketing company, like a project marketing company. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So Investorist scaled hugely. Then with the advent of COVID, it scaled back hugely. So it went from sort of 55 employees to where it is now, about 5. It's now thankfully growing again, which is fantastic. But across that period, I had the opportunity to diversify again. So I went back into being a partner in the Salvo business that I've been part of for 16 years now, actually. So I've been in there a long, long time, but now back in there, really helping drive the ship, which is exciting. And we've launched a project marketing business as well, which is equally exciting.
So if you look at that, due to that outcome, there's always every action has a reaction. Guy comes, bangs on your desk, you go start a business. That business grew, scaled globally. Through the pandemic, it came down, but you're also working with a client. That business is still in operation, as you mentioned, which is Salvo, the client you're still working with, and now you've become a partner in a project marketing side.
That's right.
So if you look at it, everything's had a very positive impact one way or another.
It has. I think I've been really fortunate through my journey in business that generally I've done business with great people. Like I've managed to find great people that want to collaborate with me or want to do business with me or want to be my client. And when you have that through your journey and you look after those relationships, you can be a partner in a project. In like my first project with Salvo that I was a partner in was 2007. 2007.
Talking 16 years ago.
16 years ago. Then that was 109 Clarendon. My wife, Catherine, was the face of 109 Clarendon. So
that's where you met her?
Interesting journey. It is where I met her. Yeah, I was the sleazy ad guy.
There you go, huh?
She was
at least
the model.
You know your ads are working.
What was that?
At least you know your ads are working.
That's exactly right.
Sorry.
So I did that project. I've done, I think 6 or 7 projects with them, and now we're launching what I think is the best project the group's ever done, which is called Moray House, where we've really gone back and completely turned what a building needs to be on its head.
Can you share some of the reasons why you feel that way?
Yeah, sure. So I think if you look at people's experience across COVID, where we were locked in our homes for a long period of time, you start to think about, well, is a home suitable for what it is like what life is like now? And I'll give you a prime example, a couple of examples. First example is pre-COVID, my family didn't do online grocery shopping. Now, every week we have online groceries. We go to the farmers markets and go to the normal markets and get our fresh stuff. But, the milk and the butter and the stuff, the tins of tomatoes
comes to the door.
Secondly, before COVID, work from home was like rare. Now, I think for businesses to attract talent, if you don't let people work from home part of the time, you're going to struggle. Like most businesses are not.
Are you an advocate of working from home?
No, I'm not. I do work from home on the weekends or after I put my son to bed at night. Yeah, I work from home. But no, not 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. That doesn't work for me. But I think that does work for some people. And I certainly know when we're out getting talent, we need to provide some level of flexibility. Otherwise, you won't get them, especially technology people. In any of my tech businesses, if you say, no, you can't work from home, forget it. They're not going to come. They're going to go somewhere else.
Obviously, it's I guess it's a divided view for a number of reasons, but so it's a very, very long conversation to have. And I know there's pros and cons. I think it's very, very good to ask questions on both opposing views because I think it's just you listen more to those outcomes.
Yeah.
I think when I was talking, because I think COVID, a lot of companies have become national, and I go, and this is just an estimation, I think COVID has advanced the market, the online market, by 10, 15 years. The acceptance of doing business that way. Now, you mentioned shopping. I'm mentioning buying property, finance, speaking nationally to people. People don't even have to view it. I think it's advanced the market so much with the acceptance of the way they do business. It's insane. Like to buy a piece of real estate and to never see the people, to never go in their office, you would have think that's unheard of. Now it's common practice.
When you think about this podcast, right? Podcasts, sure, they were emerging and they were popular pre-COVID, but not to the level they are now. Like people weren't, on my Spotify app 3 years ago, we didn't have podcasts in there, but that just wasn't done. Now you sit in your car, you're driving to work, and you might not want to listen to
So if
music.
you did have a
listen to
podcast 3 years ago on Spotify, you're an early adopter or an innovator.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good point. So just for the record, we've been on there way more than 3 years. This is our 5th season. So it's a selfless plug for Relentless, but there you go.
Well, hopefully you've got a lot bigger audience now because the wave has been riding.
We've got a lot more. Though. Before it was just my mother watching the show, and now my whole family does. So we're up to about 13.
That's great.
So there's a lot of people. No, but I guess it's
Christoph's got a lot more than 13 people in that family.
That's right.
There'd be 35.
It's 13 just nephews and nieces, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, no. God, my parents have 13 grandkids and 2 great grandkids, so 15 in total. So that's just the on our side. So there's 15. Wow. So the podcast has grown exponentially with the viewers. We put the little earplugs in the little kids as well. They listen and off we go. But no.
So back to the building and what makes it different. So we all sat around when we were in our homes and started to think, is the product that we're developing now suitable for the market today?
The current climate.
And I think we also said, is the properties that other developers are doing, is it suitable for the current climate? And we came up with the answer that no, it's not. We needed to fundamentally change the stuff we put in the building.
Do you mean buildings. Like amenity?
I mean rethink the way you actually develop the whole building.
So all that makes a difference.
It all makes a difference.
Having different amenity, having workspaces, having all that stuff.
I think so. In the building, just as a summary, like we've got parcel delivery stations and click and collect on ground floor. Now that might go like, oh, what does that mean? Well, it actually fundamentally changes the way a building works because you want your arrival in a residential apartment to be a luxurious space, to be a nice space that people can welcome guests. If it looks like a DHL with boxes around all over the counter, it's not a luxurious space. So sometimes it's those
1%ers.
The 1%ers, the practical side, where you go, okay, practically, let's make this better by removing these parcels. We make the space better. We changed part of the floor to allow storage rooms. So I think you'd be familiar with apartment buildings where you've got the storage cage. People don't like to store valuables in storage cages. People are certainly not going to store their clothes in storage cages because you get dust in there, you get dirt, you get leaves, you get mice living in there. You might have a wasp family living in your clothes. So we built a whole half of a floor where we're able to put these storage rooms and do these different themes in them so people can actually have seasonal wardrobes. So we're addressing storage concerns in those apartments. And then obviously upping all the amenities, like upping the wellness factor in our floors. We've got over 2,000 square meters of resident amenity. So doing that sort of stuff, but it's really around fundamentally changing. Okay, well, let's put the way people live today and let's make that a fundamental tenet of how we design this building.
It's more welcoming. More welcoming, attracts a different level of tenant.
Correct. Yep, exactly right. Exactly right. Even the glazing, like in your office, you've got this beautiful floor-to-ceiling glazing, wide spandrels. That's not common in apartment buildings, but Monash University published a study of the impact of natural light on people's wellness and their mental health, and it showed this really striking correlation between a lack of natural light and mental illness. And I think people experience that in winter. They call it the seasonal
depression.
Seasonal depression, yeah. So it's the same in apartment buildings. Like most of them, if you design an apartment building where you've got this narrow, one glass at one end, narrow footprint, and most of your living is in the back, it's dark and it's not nice.
And if you look at it too, it's livable space, usable spaces.
Correct.
You want your bedroom to have natural light. You don't want long hallways where you're not using that. You want to make sure, a lot of people don't understand that, but obviously been in real estate for so long. It's understanding what does it look like? How would it feel to live in? Having these bedrooms within the house with like the light that goes on, but it's no natural light, it makes you feel like you're in a box.
Yeah. And so in construction costs have gone up. So we actually just shrunk our building a bit to make it more what we thought was more livable. Anyway, that's basically the thinking. So spent, I think we've spent now 18 months just there with the architects and the designers, just completely re-engineering how this building is going to be, and it's launching to the market now.
So more time up front, putting the strategic thought in place on how they can sell better. Whereabouts is it?
It is on Moray Street, so 42 Moray Street. So it's basically on the edge of South Melbourne and South Bank.
How many apartments will go up?
Circa 300, just over 300. We have had pretty good interest from owner-occupiers, so we're increasing our number of 3 bedrooms. We started at 317 apartments. We're now down to 306, and we'll probably be 301, 302 by the time we
When do you
finish.
plan to turn dirt? When will it be completed?
So we have to turn dirt in Easter. That's our requirement with our permit, and then so we'll start building in Easter. We'll be finished mid-26.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that, Jono. So we mentioned a couple. What are some of the biggest key learnings you've learned through running your business?
So I think
Businesses.
it's funny. We started talking about starting my business with adversity.
Yep.
With the slamming the hand on the desk. I think if you run a global property business, COVID was adversity that you could never imagine. So we had like UK shut down, China shut down, US shut down. Like we got to the point in those markets where UK, for example, was shut down for over 6 months. They were locked down and staff were furloughed. So we ended up having to just close those offices completely. So I think if I say what is my biggest learning in business, it would be planning for the bad times and being able to manage through adversity. And I think I've become better each time I've had that real adversity where you go, oh my goodness, how am I going to get out of this? I think that's actually the best key learnings. You don't like them at the time when you're there, but looking back on them, you go like, how valuable was that?
For me, look, I don't know. I've got a very crazy or sick mindset. When it's absolutely looking impossible, I'm in big trouble. I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know. I just love it. I think that's when that's when I wake up more, and that's when I'm so excited. And for a couple of reasons, because I think I want to see who shows up here through the largest pressures. That's where diamonds are made, and your learnings are made. Now, sometimes what I've seen in reflection,
100%. And I tell you what, it's funny. I married a lawyer, so I'm very blessed that every bad adversity, the person that shows up that's right on my side is my wife and also the lawyer. So it's handy.
So tick, tick.
Tick, tick.
The marketing has definitely worked.
Yeah, exactly right.
But I mean, when you look at it, I think the key learnings for me is, as hard as it is to see sometimes, I go, the harder this is to see, I go, the better and more grateful I am, because I'm going to look back and I'm going to improve even more, evolve even more. In business at its toughest, it's when you've got to make these hard decisions. You've got to really look under the bonnet and go, hang on a second here. I need to look at A, B, C, D. Before things are flying, everyone doesn't have to worry. And one of my mentors said to me, which I'm understanding more and more the older I'm getting, when things are super tough, he goes, I expect 120% from my team. And I looked at him like, things are flying, give me 80, that's fine. So I only want 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Give me 120 and things are tough. And I go to him, that's why? Because I have to question everything. He goes to me, because that's when I need you to show up. That's when I need to see when you're at your best. And that's when I want to see what you're made of. So for me, I thought, it's a really good way to look at it. And I've always looked back at all challenges through my business life and my personal life. And the ones that were the most challenging always, when I look back at them and in reflection, they were the best things that ever happened to me and the biggest key learnings, whether it be a business deal that never worked, someone did something that I probably thought wasn't good, or a business partner did X. I look back and go, wow, I've turned into this person because of that. I learned how to put better deals because of that. Personally, this is tough, but I've grown as a better person because of it. And I've always seen them as the best learnings by far. In my experience, anyway.
There's that old cliche, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
100%.
And I think it's true in business. Like if I look at Investress now, sure, it's a lot smaller and it turns over a lot less money, but it does it sustainably and it's a stronger, better business because of it.
And because
Smaller.
you learned that. Yeah, that's okay.
But stronger and
Sometimes
better.
the smaller fish are sweeter.
That's true.
It's also, look, the scale of business profitability is important, having an impact is important. So, but it really depends what everyone's goals are. Now, we could talk all day. Just we're coming to the close. You ready for your questions now, Mr. John?
100%.
Yeah. Favorite food?
French food.
Favorite color?
Yellow.
Yellow. When you wake up, what's the first thing you think of?
My family.
Winter, summer, what's your favorite season?
I love kiteboarding. That's my main passion, but I also love snowboarding. So I kind of like winter and summer, but I'd have to say summer.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What's your favorite way to give back to the community or make a positive impact?
I think by teaching others and mentoring my staff. So helping my staff grow
So
and
pay
improve.
it forward in terms of knowledge.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think being a nice person.
I think that's a non-negotiable. I've been very fortunate to have my father as one of the nicest men I've ever met in my life, but being kind should be a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Give me a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self 20 years ago. So 20-year-old John, current John goes to 20-year-old John. It's over 20 years ago. Give me a piece of advice. What would you give yourself?
Don't be afraid of failure. So I've had a fear of failure all my life, and I think it's held me back, and it's made me hold on to things longer than I should have. I think just
go for it.
Go for it. Let a couple of things fail.
Give me one of your favorite quotes or mantras that inspires you or you live by.
I think it's a quote from my father, who always says to me, "Near enough is not good enough, but perfect is near enough."
So just go for it.
Go for it, but be perfect.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on the podcast?
10. Chris, I've
There
been
you
with
go.
you. I always
There
enjoy
we
my
go.
time with you.
Thank you very much. Remember, like, subscribe if you want to see more content and more episodes of Relentless. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for having me.